I used to think success meant never needing help again. That once you made your first million, or in my case, your first 100, you became untouchable. But the truth? The truth hit me hard one humid Tuesday afternoon on a quiet stretch of highway outside Montgomery, Alabama. I was driving solo, something I rarely did anymore. Normally, I had a driver or an assistant trailing behind, but that day, I needed air. Real air. No boardrooms, no phones, no shareholders. Just me, my thoughts, and the road. And then the car died. My latest, top-of-the-line electric coupe started sputtering before finally rolling to a stop. I laughed at the irony. Me, the founder of Solix Energy, sitting in a dead electric car under a dying sun. I popped the hood like I knew what I was doing. Truth is, I hadn't touched an engine since my teenage years in Brooklyn. Back then, I fixed old radios with my uncle in our basement. Now I built sustainable power systems for cities. But I couldn't fix this. I was wearing a white shirt, gold cufflinks, and shoes polished so clean they reflected my regrets. I leaned over the engine like an imposter, hoping someone, anyone, would stop. That's when I heard the rumble of a truck. It wasn't sleek or shiny. It was a beat-up green pickup that looked like it had driven through wars and weddings. It pulled up behind me, engine coughing, door creaking as it opened, and out stepped her. A woman. Not just any woman. A tall, graceful black woman with braids pulled into a tight bun and a navy blue jumpsuit that had her name, Mona, stitched in faded thread. Her boots were dusty, her hands rough, but her presence, it was like still water in chaos. "You all right, brother?" she asked, voice warm with a southern lilt that somehow calmed me more than the air conditioning ever could. "Battery's dead," I muttered, stepping aside. She gave me a look, the kind of look that saw right through the money, right through the image. I could tell instantly, this woman didn't care who I was. "You pop the hood and just hope it fixes itself?" she teased with a smirk. I laughed, sheepish. I thought, it might intimidate the engine into working. She rolled her eyes and walked to her truck, returning with a toolbox that looked older than both of us. "You one of those tech millionaires?" she asked while checking the voltage with a multimeter. "Billionaire," I said reflexively. I regretted it immediately. Mona didn't even blink. "Cool," she said, tightening a loose cable. "Still doesn't help you when you're stuck on the side of the road, huh?" I liked her instantly. In 10 minutes flat, she had my car running again. Didn't ask for money, didn't take a selfie. She just dusted off her hands, closed the hood, and leaned against her truck. "Battery was fine," she explained. "You had a poor ground wire. Happens when folks buy the fancy stuff but forget the fundamentals." I stared at her, stunned. "Where'd you learn this?" "Georgia Tech. Mechanical engineering." She shrugged like it was nothing. "Came back here to take care of my people. Folks don't need shiny, they need reliable." I glanced at her truck, held together by more duct tape than steel. "So why aren't you running a plant in Silicon Valley? Why would I want to build rockets for billionaires when I can? Fix problems on Earth?" That hit me. Harder than I expected. I noticed her ring then. A simple silver band on her left hand, worn, hand-carved with what looked like the letter A. No diamonds, no bling. Just real metal, real meaning. "You married?" I asked gently. She looked at the ring, then at me. Something flickered in her eyes. "Not in the way you think," she replied, voice softer now. Before I could ask more, she was back in her truck. "Take care, Mr. Billionaire," she said with a nod. "And next time, carry jumper cables." And, just like that, she was gone. The car was running again. The air was warm. But something had shifted inside me. I sat behind the wheel, staring down the road, thinking not about my next deal, but about a woman named Mona with engine grease on her hands and a ring that held a story I couldn't stop thinking about. That day, I realized something money had never taught me. Sometimes the most powerful people don't wear suits. They wear overalls. And sometimes, the ones who change your life show up not with a handshake, but with a wrench and a quiet smile. I couldn't get her out of my head. Mona. She'd fixed my car like it was second nature. And then she fixed something deeper, Something I didn't even know was broken. My pride, my assumptions, my sense of purpose. Back in New York, I was drowning in noise, emails, investor calls, speaking requests. My assistant had 74 pending meeting invites for me that week alone, but my mind kept drifting, not to mergers or expansion strategies, but to a dusty road in Alabama and a woman in a faded jumpsuit who didn't care who I was. I Googled her shop, Mona's Auto and Electric, Montgomery County. One review said, "She fixed my car and prayed over it too." Another said, "Didn't charge me a dime, just said do something good for someone else." I had to go back. 2 weeks later, I returned. This time, not stranded, but searching. I wore jeans and a plain tee, left the luxury car at the hotel, and rented a pickup just to blend in. Her shop sat on the edge of town, a corrugated metal building surrounded by cracked pavement and laughter coming from a nearby playground. Kids ran barefoot past the sign she must have painted herself. Her name was written in looping, imperfect letters. I stepped inside, and there she was, elbows deep in the hood of an old sedan, oil on her hands, humming some old gospel tune under her breath. "You again?" she said without even turning around. "How'd you know?" "Same walk. And billionaires wear shoes that look like they've never touched real dirt." I smiled. "I came to say thank you." She glanced at me. "You drove 1,000 miles to say thank you?" "I also came to offer you a job." Now she looked up properly. "I figured this was coming." "I'm serious," I said. "Solix needs someone like you. We're expanding to the southeast, and we want real engineers, people who don't just sit in labs but actually understand the communities we serve." She wiped her hands and leaned against the car. "What do you actually want from me?" "I want your brain, your experience, your heart, all of it. Come build something that matters." She shook her head slowly. "Let me guess. Salary with lots of zeros, corner office, stock options, maybe a Tesla?" I nodded. "All of it, plus a team." She smiled faintly. "You know what I have right now? A daughter I pick up from school every day, a business where no one goes, bankrupt because they need breaks. And freedom. I don't owe anyone." "I'm not trying to take that," I said quickly. "I'm trying to build something with you. Not for charity, for change." She stared at me for a long time. "I don't work for men like you, Miles. I work with people who remember where they came from. Big difference." Those words stayed with me long after I left that day. I didn't give up. Over the next month, I visited Montgomery every week, not with offers or proposals, just to talk, learn, help out. I rolled up my sleeves and changed oil with her. We installed solar panels on her roof together. She laughed at how I couldn't handle heat or grease. I loved every second of it, and I listened. Mona didn't just understand engines, she understood energy, the flow of power through communities. The difference between giving people electricity and giving them control over it. She told me stories about people whose utility bills cost more than their groceries, about neighborhoods that stayed in the dark for days because no one thought they mattered. Her anger wasn't loud, but it was sharp, clear, righteous, and it mirrored the dream I'd almost lost in my pursuit of wealth. I founded Solix with a mission to power underprivileged communities with renewable energy. But somewhere along the way, board meetings replaced mission statements. Shareholder reports overshadowed stories of real lives changed. Mona reminded me why I started. One afternoon, while we were rebuilding a generator outside her shop, I asked her again, "Join me, but on your terms. No suits, no titles, just us, partners." She looked at me sideways. "I don't want a position," she said. "I want a voice. Done. And I keep my shop." "Of course. And I get to challenge every decision you make." "Please do." She nodded once. "That ring?" I asked softly, unable to resist. "You said you weren't married the way I thought. What did you mean?" She paused, fingers brushing the silver band as if it pulsed with memory. "It was my sister's," she said finally. "Aaliyah." She died 5 years ago. Heart failure. She was 29. I went still. We couldn't afford the treatment. Insurance rejected her, clinics were overbooked, and by the time help came, it was too late. Mona looked away, eyes glassy but voice steady. She gave me this ring the day before she passed. Told me to wear it, and every time I looked at it, remember the people like her. The ones who fall through the cracks. Silence stretched between us. "I'm so sorry," I said, not knowing what else to offer. She looked back at me, smile tinged, with pain and pride. "I don't wear it out of grief. I wear it so I never forget who I'm fighting for." In that moment, I knew I wasn't just hiring someone. I had met the woman who would redefine everything I thought I knew about success. We launched the pilot project 6 months after Mona agreed to partner with me. Not in New York, not in San Francisco, in Montgomery. Her idea. "This isn't charity," she said at the time. "This is proof." We called it Project Hearthlight, a small grid of solar-powered energy hubs for low-income families who'd never had reliable electricity. Not just panels and batteries, but training centers where locals could learn to repair, install, and manage the systems themselves. Mona took the lead. Watching her work was like watching a symphony composed in wrenches and purpose. She trained ex-cons, teenage girls, single mothers, and retired mechanics. She turned doubters into believers. She taught them to wire circuits, connect inverters, and install rooftop units in 90-degree heat. And they listened, not because of who she was on paper, but because she had walked their same roads, fixed their same rusted-out trucks, paid the same overdue bills. She made them feel seen. My team back in New York couldn't believe what they were seeing on the dashboards. In just 2 months, grid efficiency in the neighborhood increased by 43%. Electrical theft dropped to 0. Home energy debt cut in half. But it wasn't just the numbers, it was the pride. People started planting flowers beneath their new power. Hubs. Kids held after-school classes under solar-lit porches. A grandmother named Miss Evie cried when we installed her first air conditioner that didn't trip the breaker every time she turned it on. "She made this happen," Evie said, pointing to Mona. "Not the man in the suit." I didn't correct her. She was right. Around that time, Forbes called. They wanted to feature me for their Sustainable Titans issue. Normally, I would have agreed without blinking. But I paused this time. "I'll do it," I said. "If Mona's on the cover." "Too." The editor hesitated. "She's not an executive." "She's the reason your story even exists." To their credit, they agreed. And the day the magazine came out, there we were, side by side in work clothes, standing on a rooftop in Montgomery, with the headline, "The Mechanic and the Mogul, Powering Change from the Ground Up." Mona laughed when she saw it. "They put me in the same sentence as a mogul," she said, smirking. "That's dangerous." But the photo went viral. Not because of me. Because of her. A black woman with grease on her cheek and strength in her. Eyes representing millions who never got the spotlight. Requests flooded in. TED Talks. Interviews. Offers from universities to make her a visiting scholar. She declined most of them. "I didn't sign up for fame," she told me one night over dinner. "I signed up to fix things." But not everything could be fixed. Few months later, her shop caught fire. Electrical fault. No one hurt, thankfully, but the building was gone. Decades of tools, journals, parts, community memories, reduced to ash. I offered to rebuild it immediately, blank check. She said no. "Don't need a new building, Miles, I need a new way." So we built something better. The Aliyah Center. Named after her sister, it became more than a garage. It was a community engineering hub, a hybrid of a repair shop, training institute, daycare, food pantry, and energy command post. It was Mona's, soul in concrete and glass. And on opening day, she stood on stage in front of hundreds, city officials, students, mothers, politicians, engineers. She wore the same jumpsuit. She didn't speak from notes. She spoke from fire. "We've waited too long for permission to fix what's broken," she said. "But we're not waiting anymore. We're building futures. Right here, with our own hands." I clapped so hard my palms stung. Later that evening, after the crowd had thinned, we sat under a solar canopy as lights blinked on across the neighborhood. "You changed my life," I told her quietly. She chuckled. "No, you just remembered who you were." Then I said something I hadn't said in years. I want to slow down. Not retire, just make space for real work. Work like this, with people like you. She turned to me, her eyes soft, reflective. "You don't have to do it all, Miles. You just have to do what matters." And that night, for the first time since I'd built my company, I didn't check my email before bed. I didn't worry about stock prices. I just sat beside a woman with oil-stained fingers and a silver ring, watching stars shine over rooftops we'd helped light up. And I felt rich in a way no bank account ever gave me. 3 years have passed since the day my car broke down in Alabama. 3 years since I met Mona, mechanic, mentor, mother, movement maker. 3 years since I stopped chasing legacy and started living it. Solix Energy now powers over 1 million. Homes in underserved communities, many of them in the Deep South thanks to the model Mona helped me build. We didn't just bring electricity, we brought ownership, jobs, skills, dignity. Every hub we've built includes a workshop modeled after the Aliyah Center. Every intern we train learns Mona's core principle. If it doesn't serve the people, it's not worth building. She's on the board now, not because I put her there, but because the entire leadership team voted unanimously after one of her impromptu town hall speeches left half the room in tears and the other half in action. We no longer pitch to investors the same way. Instead of projecting earnings, we project impact. How many homes lit this quarter? How many women trained in solar installation? How many kids now do homework with their own lamp instead of under a streetlight? At the start, some of my wealthier friends mocked the pivot. "You're running a charity," they sneered. But when we doubled revenue last year while building 40% more community-owned grids, they started asking for meetings. Funny how clarity attracts capital. As for Mona, she still lives in the same neighborhood, still drives her pickup with the cracked radio, still shows up at 6 a.m. sharp every Monday with a thermos of coffee and a tool belt slung over her shoulder. But everything else has grown. Her daughter, Sarai, now runs the after-school solar program. She teaches kids to build their own generators. From scraps, turning abandoned microwaves into power sources, soda cans into turbines. She's 16 and already smarter than me. Sometimes I just sit on the porch of the Aliyah Center and watch them together, wondering how I ever thought success was measured in numbers and not names. One evening, we hosted a community gathering under the Solar Pavilion. Music, dancing, grilled food, and speeches. We handed out certificates to 40 new graduates of the energy training program. One of them, a single dad named Marcus, stood with tears in his eyes. "This place gave me a second chance," he said. "Mona saw me when no one else would. Now I power 300 homes and provide for my baby girl." She hugged him without a word, just a nod that said, "I expected nothing less." After the event, we sat side by side under the string lights. I glanced at her hand. She was still wearing the ring. "You ever think about taking it off?" I asked gently. She looked down at it, then back at the lights overhead. "No," she said. "It keeps me honest, keeps me anchored." I understood. That ring wasn't a relic, it was a promise. Not to the past, but to the unfinished. To the work still ahead, and just like that, something shifted in me again. "I've been thinking about something," I said. "Maybe it's time I passed the CEO title on. Step back from the day-to-day." She didn't flinch. "What would you do? Instead? Lead differently. Focus on building a foundation for entrepreneurs like you. Create a fellowship, a fund, maybe teach." She leaned back in her chair, considering it. "You know," she said with a sly smile, "for a man who once couldn't change a tire, you've come a long way." I laughed. "And I owe it to a woman who didn't blink when a millionaire needed help on the side of a road." She tilted her head. "I didn't help you because you were a millionaire, Miles." "I know," I said. "That's why it meant everything." Months later, I did step down, not into retirement, but into purpose. I started the Ring Project, named after Mona's silver band. Its mission, fund community-led energy initiatives across the country. No bureaucracy, no red tape, just belief in local genius. The first 10 recipients were single moms, formerly incarcerated engineers, young inventors, and yes, mechanics. We tell their stories now. We invest in their dreams. We let them lead, because one woman helped me see what I'd been blind to in all my years of ambition. That the real grid of power, hope, and change runs through people, not pipelines. So when people ask me now, how did you become the man you are? I don't talk about IPOs or boardrooms. I talk about a summer day in Alabama, a broken down car, and a black woman with a wrench and a ring who refused to let anyone, especially me, forget what really matters. And if there's one lesson I can pass on, it's this. Sometimes the moment that changes your life doesn't come from a board decision, a bank transfer, or a big speech. It comes when you're stuck, humbled, and seen. It comes from someone who remembers who they are and helps you remember too. Mona didn't just help fix my car. She helped fix me, and for the rest of my life I'll make sure that light she carries, it never goes out.